Now we want to insert the power supply cord. Slide the printer around to the back side for better viewing. Put this in the lower section. We're going to plug this into a standard outlet with power supply or surge protector. This back switch here is the actual on-off button. Turn that on. Turn the unit around. Look at our display panel will light up. We'll go through a series of initializing functions and eventually end up in print mode ready. At this point we know we are ready to print, with exceptions of loading the ink and the tape. In this section we're going to load the ink ribbon. We'll slide the printer around for better viewing. Open the jacket, release the print head itself, put in the lock position, drop the deflector tab. We're going to take our ink ribbon. The ink and the ID kits come separate from the printer. Remove this from the supply box. Remove the clear plastic wrapper. You will notice on each ink ribbon there's a plastic core on inside the ink. One end is going to say "this end out." That's usually a printed side. The other side is going to be engraved, will say "other end out." Same thing is true on the take-up cord. Okay? What I'm going to do is open the tape and make sure that we have this end out facing away from the inner workings of the printer. And we want to drop that onto the supply arbor. We want to pull this tab down, take it under the first rib roller, under the print head, around the second rib roller, and up to the take-up cord. You want to keep it as centered as you can on the take-up cord so that it does not pull across the ribbon when it's winding. Then manually wind the ink ribbon until we get a solid part of black ink underneath the print head. Note that the unused ink here will be taken onto the take-up cord. The take-up cord will fill as we print more labels. And when the ink is used all up, this take-up cord can simply be taken off the arbor and thrown away. This empty cord then can be removed and placed up here to become the new take-up cord. But again, the most important thing to remember is that where it says "this end out," it needs to face out. The cords will slide on the arbors if you reverse it. However, they'll go halfway and get caught. And I will demonstrate that now just so you can see. You can force it on, but it becomes very difficult to take off. These cords should slide freely. This end out. If I did it in reverse, it would go about halfway and get caught. Okay? So again, very important. Take-up cord and supply cords, this end out, facing out. Just load the ink back up here. Again, just want to release the print head, lock in place, close cover. We have the ink installed. In this section we're going to install the actual ID labels. First let me talk a little bit about the packaging of the labels and the ink. ExpressPrint supplies are packaged in kits. In each kit contains 8 rolls of ID tape and 1 ink ribbon. There's 20,000 inches of ink on each ink ribbon. In the ID tape that we're going to be installing now, we're using a 1-inch tape. In a 1-inch kit, there are 8 rolls of 2,500 1-inch labels. The entire ink ribbon will print all 20,000 labels. In other words, your changeouts are 8 times of ID tape for 1 ink ribbon. I'm going to start by removing the plastic packaging. Discard that. And there will be a piece of masking tape that holds the labels together. What we want to do is tear that, but tear a section of labels off all the way to the point where the masking tape reached the next label. That way it ensures that none of the adhesive is left on the tape, so that when the tape is passing through the printer, none of that adhesive will stick to the print head or the roller itself. What I'm going to do now is open the jacket. I'm going to slide the printer again just for better viewing angle. First thing is we want to look at the back arbor that houses the ID labels themselves. We'll drop this on here so that the ID tapes are feeding from the top position. You'll also notice, as we said previously, this is a self-centering guide. When I open this, it opens evenly on the left and right side. So you can keep it open to drop the ID labels on and close it till it comes in against the tape. Pull it back one click just to give it a little bit of movement. Then what we need to do is feed the tape through the print auxiliary and under the print head. We're going to scale in for detailed angles of this. First, I do want to release the print head, and then we want to focus in on the actual print auxiliary itself. Now we want to load the ID tape through the print head and the auxiliary. With the tape loaded from the top, we're going to pull this through. Pull it through to give yourself enough slack so the ID labels actually rest on the base of the printer. This will allow you to grab enough tape and slide it through the front of the auxiliary here. Take your left hand, with one finger just hold the ID tape in place. That'll allow you to see with your right hand, slide the ID tape under this black box in between the guide bars. The black box, which I'll point out here, is a sensor. That sensor recognizes each notch in the tape. The sensor is smart enough to know not to print across one of the perforated lines in the ID labels. If it feels that it's going to do so, it'll advance or back up the tape so that it keeps within the printable area of each ID label. We want to make certain that the ID tape is positioned properly between these guide bars here. Your printer may or may not be adjusted for proper positioning based on the width of the labels you may be using. In this application, we're using a 3 1/4 inch wide label. If I needed to adjust this to accommodate a smaller label, just going to remove the tape so we have better viewing angle here. This tab here in the down position will allow these guide bars to swing freely. They slide in conjunction left and right with one another the same way the arbor does on the ID tape arm. So what I want to do is just position that so I have enough width to accommodate the width tape that I'm using, but not that it's so wide that the tape is free to slide back and forth. Otherwise, it will not be registered by the sensor. We also want to make sure that we don't have the tape bunched up in this fashion, which would cause the tape to bend over and get caught up under the sensor. We want to give ourselves just a little bit of space between the guide bars and the tape. When I say a little bit, I'm talking probably less than a 1/16 of an inch. With the tape properly positioned, you'll also notice there are 4 metal teeth. It may be hard to see from the viewing angle, but down here there's a metal tooth that helps keep the tape in the down position against the guide bars, under the sensor, and then again in through our rollers here. The label's loaded and the cover closed. We come around to the front of the display panel. Look at the top left button, which is our feed button. If we press this once, it'll advance one label. Each time we press it, it'll advance another label. But by doing so, we ensure that the ID labels are in the proper position to receive a batch of labels to print.